Hi, this is The Business Guy. I'm the CEO of Lawyers Limited, and today we're going to talk about protecting your real estate from lawsuits. We'll talk about protecting your personal residence, and then we'll talk about protecting your rental property. Then we'll do some illustrations so it's crystal clear. And if you appreciate this information, please click the like button below so YouTube promotes the video. Thanks so much. And you can also click the subscribe button so that when more videos come out like this, you'll be up to date right away. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our illustrations now, and we'll see how this works in the real world. Let's first talk about asset protection for your personal residence, for where you live. Now, the first thing we do is we employ privacy techniques. We put the property into a land trust. Okay? The land trust provides privacy of ownership, so when somebody looks up your name in the public records, they don't see your name in the public records. So if you own 5, 10, or 50 different properties and they type your name in the public records and each one is in a separate land trust, they don't really see that you own anything, so it keeps a contingency fee attorney at bay. If your name was associated with 5, 10, or 50 different properties, well, heck, that's like shooting geese in a pond. They're going to come after you and sue you because if they're a contingency fee lawyer, they know they can get paid. But if there's a privacy shield in place, and that's the land trust, they won't be able to readily identify you as the owner of these properties. So each property goes into its separate land trust for privacy of ownership. And we've used land trusts in all 50 states. We also can employ a living trust for estate planning purposes to pass the assets along to your heirs. But in this case, we're talking about your personal residence, your primary residence. You may have a second home, but you only have one primary residence. So that's what we're talking about here. In a handful of states, there's homestead protection that protects a significant amount of the equity in the home, but in most states, you're going to be exposed. So that's why we also use a limited liability company to record a lien against the property. That is, a mortgage or deed of trust is recorded against the property, and this is typically a home equity line of credit type of lien against the property. So it's a mortgage or deed of trust. And in this case, if we need to, down the road, we can have a third-party lender purchase this mortgage lien against the property. And that way we have a third-party lender that can purchase it, and we put the proceeds in an international asset protection trust, which we speak about in another video. So you can look up our videos on the Cook Islands Trust, and that will describe how the offshore asset protection trust works. So that's what we do. First, we put it into a land trust for privacy of ownership. We can also involve a living trust for estate planning, and then we record an equity stripping lien against the property, and that can in turn be sold to a third party if needed. And we have third parties internationally that will purchase these and put the proceeds in a you can't touch it account in your offshore trust. Okay, next, let's talk about asset protection for real estate investments. Not where you live, but an investment you may have. This could be commercial property or residential property. So for investment property, we put each property into a land trust, and we'll do that for residential property. Typically, that's 1 to 4 dwelling units, because if it's mortgage property, it has a mortgage on it, the bank can't call the loan due if you transfer a property that's 1 to 4 dwelling units into a land trust. So the land trust for privacy of ownership. Next, we make the beneficiary of each land trust a limited liability company, LLC, and we'll typically establish that in the state where the property is located. And the reason we do that is because there's certain laws that provide asset protection for owners of limited liability company. So a member of an LLC, when you're sued personally, there are provisions in the law so that they cannot come and take your assets away. They can't take your LLC membership away. In most states, you need to have 2 or more members in order to enjoy that protection called charging order protection. So a limited liability company is the beneficiary of each land trust. So you have asset protection and lawsuit protection. Asset protection when you're sued personally, and lawsuit protection if there's a slip and fall on that property. This limited liability company can protect you from the lawsuit that happens on that property. So many of these lawsuits are for far greater than the amount of the insurance coverage. So just because you have insurance doesn't mean you're protected, because many policies have exceptions. So they don't protect you in this case or that case, and they can penetrate and get to you personally. But when you have a limited liability company between you and the property, that can provide a legal shield to protect you personally from losing your home, your car, your bank account, and everything you've worked so hard for. Then we take another limited liability company, and this can be a U.S. or international limited liability company. International limited liability companies give far greater protection. For example, in the Caribbean island of Nevis, they have much better laws, much more protective laws, and we record a mortgage or deed of trust. Now, this is a home equity line of credit, deed of trust, or mortgage. So there's no money changing hands unless we have to. In about 1% of the cases, we get a third party involved to purchase that mortgage and then put the proceeds in an untouchable account in an international asset protection trust. So that's how we protect real estate from lawsuits. We put each property into a land trust typically, okay, for privacy of ownership. Then we'll go ahead and record an equity line of credit against each property so it strips out the equity, so there's really nothing exciting in the property, really nothing left to take. All the good stuff, the equity in the property, has been withdrawn, so there's nothing to take. So we use privacy, asset protection through the LLC, and then we use the equity stripping to strip out the equity of the property. So that's kind of a summary of how we protect assets from lawsuits if the asset is real estate. And when it comes to protecting your assets, the key thing is when you know you need asset protection, or you could, it's important to do it right away, because we've had people protect their assets when they thought they might even win a lawsuit, and they call us with tears in their eyes thanking us that they went ahead and protected themselves because they lost, and lost big time. So many people we speak with who think their lawsuit is a frivolous case and they're sure to win, and their attorney tells them they're going to win, and they lose, and they're glad they protected themselves. And there's others who scratch their heads until their head bleeds, and they're thinking, and they're calling us back and asking more questions and asking more questions. We call that paralysis by analysis. And what ends up happening is they get some type of lis pendens, that means lien pending, or other freezing order on their assets. Then there's nothing we can do. So when you need asset protection, you think you need asset protection, that's typically time to act, because the small cost of asset protection is very tiny compared to the assets that are being protected. Now here's the real test. Does this work in the real world? Now it is one thing when a lower court rules on a case, but what really holds weight is when the Court of Appeals issues a ruling. For example, when a ruling is issued by the California Ninth Circuit, it is binding precedent for the lower courts in that circuit, so they must follow it. Plus, it is persuasive precedent for the other circuits and for the state courts. They are more often than not persuaded by the reasoning of the ruling. That said, the California Court of Appeals ruling strongly supports the strategy outlined above. See Nautilus Inc. versus Yang. In this case, plaintiff Nautilus Inc. got a judgment against the defendant by the name of Stanley Kuo Hu Yang. Nautilus attached the judgment to a home that Yang owned. Now, the family had a mortgage recorded against the house, and another company in turn bought the mortgage from the first lender. As a result, Nautilus filed suit against Yang, and Yang's father took title and helped his son get the loan. Now, the original mortgage, plus the company that bought the mortgage. And as a result, Nautilus filed a suit against Yang, Yang's father who took title and helped his son get the loan, the original mortgagee, plus the company that bought the mortgage. So what happened? First, the lower court ruled that the one who recorded the mortgage and the lender who bought it acted in good faith. The California Supreme Court also affirmed this ruling, citing Civil Code Section 3439.08a. The liens held firm and could not be invalidated. So how much protection is needed? Now, one of the most common questions we answer is how many legal entities do I need? And it really depends on how much each property is worth. So the average home in California will be worth more than the average home in Iowa. Ideally, you want one LLC per property. And with this arrangement, it helps to prevent one lawsuit from taking all of your real estate. Thus, you have each property protected in its own separate cubbyhole. And that's why we recommend one LLC per investment property. We don't want to hold your personal residence in an LLC because of the different tax treatment given to personal residences. So it can be a land trust, but we don't typically associate an LLC as an owner of the land trust if that's your personal residence, your primary residence where you live. We also have other strategies for liquid assets with International Trust, International LLC, and you can go ahead and give us a call at 954-400-1050 and talk about your asset protection needs. We have attorneys on staff. Our company started in 1906, so well over 100 years old. We have attorneys and consultants who can answer your questions, or you can fill out a free consultation form at assetprotectionplanners.com. So go ahead and please click like, subscribe, and share this video with others. This is The Business Guy.